In the previous video, we learned about the origins of mysticism and Sufism in Islam. In this video, we will learn about the differences and similarities between Zen Buddhism and Sufism, why Orthodox Muslims are against Sufism, and some intriguing practices of Sufism across the globe. All three, Buddhism, Sufism, and Jainism, emerged as reactions to their time's prevailing religious and social orders. Sufism arose as a counter to the worldliness of the early Umayyad period, advocating a more spiritual and less materialistic approach to Islam. Similarly, Buddhism rebelled against Brahminic Hinduism, characterized by a rigid caste system, elaborate sacrifices, and complex rituals. Jainism, which emerged before Buddhism, was the pioneer concept that introduced the metaphysical element of liberating the soul from matter, providing a distinct spiritual path. Zen Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, is more closely aligned with the philosophy and practice of Sufism. The two practices share similarities, such as the concept of emptiness and selflessness, the emphasis on meditation, the use of words in a presentational way, and the cultivation of mental clarity through meditation with the support of a teacher. Spiritualism in both schools of thought results in compassion, empathy, and service to others. However, there are also differences between the two practices. Buddhism teaches the concept of nirvana, which is liberation from the cycle of rebirth. On the other hand, Sufism introduces the idea of permanent union with God, known as Baka, with the permanent annihilation, fana, of ego. Unlike the Buddhist worldview, Sufism is more about human values and learning and loving God. Zen meditation, or zazen, is a passive practice that involves sitting quietly and focusing on one's breath. In contrast, Sufi meditation, or dhikr, is an active practice that includes music, dance, and chanting divine names. Sufis' emphasis, hadith Qudsi, which refers to the sayings or actions of the Prophet Muhammad that he attributed to Allah but are not part of the Quran. These hadith emphasizing qualities like humility, sincerity, and love as crucial elements in fostering this connection that Islamic fundamentalists do not preach much. Sufism and Orthodox traditions in Islam have a complex relationship. While many Muslims, including those following Orthodox traditions, embrace Sufism as an integral part of Islamic spirituality, some express reservations or opposition to certain Sufi practices or beliefs. Some critics argue that certain Sufi practices may be considered innovations, bid'ah, because the Prophet Muhammad or his companions did not practice them. Others may express reservations about Sufism, which emphasizes spiritual aspects such as dance, music over traditional rituals like prayers, pilgrimage, and ibadats. Orthodox critics may argue that such an emphasis on mysticism and personal experiences could be perceived as a departure from established Islamic practices and beliefs. Such as Bulleh Shah, a Sufi poet, emphasizes the emptiness of religious rituals in these lines. Recite prayers 1,000 times, they won't touch the heart. Read Quranic verses on Fridays, but the essence won't be grasped. Take ritual baths in the Ganges, yet the core remains untouched. Mansur ul-Haq, a 9th century Sufi, stresses the futility of religious rituals. Abandoning the mosque, we get drunk in the tavern. Sufism often involves the veneration of saints or spiritual leaders known as awliya Allah. Some Orthodox Muslims may be cautious about practices that seem to elevate individuals to a status beyond what they believe is appropriate in Islamic theology. Sachal Sarmast, 18th century Sindhi Sufi poet, expresses the same idea that dervishes, Sufi mystics, transcend their individual existence and connect with the divine. God's reflection is seen in the faces of dervishes, only they are timeless. Everything else is fleeting. The entire universe is under the guidance of dervishes. Even God seeks the desire and will of dervishes. Sachal Sarmast elevates Attar, the renowned Persian Sufi poet, to a divine level. He was not Attar because he was God. He was God. He was a pure being. Because he was God, he was God. Misunderstandings or misinterpretations of Sufi practices can lead to reservations. Some critics fail to understand the symbolic or metaphorical aspects of certain Sufi rituals and may view them as incompatible with Orthodox Islamic beliefs. For instance, Manrur ul-Hallaj was executed for uttering the blasphemous statement, Ana al-Haq, which means, I am the truth, or I am God, Let's explore some intriguing Sufi practices that Islamic fundamentalists criticize. Dhikr or zikr is a term that signifies remembering or praising. In Sufism, practitioners engage in two primary forms of dhikr, silent and vocal. Like meditation, silent dhikr is considered superior and performed privately without body movement. Vocal dhikr involves using the tongue and at times includes body movements done personally or in a group setting. Sufis participate in ritualized dhikr ceremonies called sama, incorporating recitation, singing, music, dance, meditation, ecstasy, and trance. Sufis frequently gather in circles, known as dhikr circles or halqa, for collective remembrance, creating a communal atmosphere that amplifies spiritual energy and fosters a shared sense of closeness to Allah. At times, rhythmic repetition of the same word, accompanied by loud vocalization and body movements, is employed to intensify their emotional experience. Dervish whirling, sama, is a form of active meditation that seeks to synchronize the body's movements with the rhythm of the cosmos. The concept is that everything in the universe is moving in love of God, and by spinning, dervishes can connect with this divine energy. Rumi, the founder of the Mevlevi order, was inspired by this movement to develop his philosophy of longing for God, which teaches that spinning is a way to move away from the pull of gravity and join with God. One arm is pointed towards the earth, the other towards heaven, and the body is tilted and turned on its left foot. With the whirling accompanied by music and chanting, dervishes enter a state of divine ecstasy that is both euphoric and spiritual. In Sufism, this state refers to annihilation, that is, extinction of one's self or ego. The idea is that this practice will develop a connection between human and divine. Sufi poets convey their message using symbolic language, allegories, and metaphors. This emotionally rich poetry is characterized by spiritual symbolism and an intimate exploration of the soul's relationship with the divine. Renowned Sufi poets, such as Rumi, Hafez, and Attar, have left a legacy of personal and metaphorical poetry, inviting readers to delve into divine love, unity, and transcendence. Finally, Sufi mystics in Kosovo celebrate Nowruz by performing zarf piercing. This ritual symbolizes their devotion to God. During the ceremony, they pierce their cheeks using a skewer-like tool and enchant and dance in ecstasy to honor their faith. Similarly, Shia Muslims worldwide observe Muharram to mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. They engage in this ritual to symbolize their struggle against injustice, tyranny, and oppression. As a part of this ritual, they use swords to torture their bodies in solidarity with Hussein. These two videos on Sufism examine the historical evolution of mysticism from Hellenistic religions to medieval Christian spirituality and its manifestation in Islam through Sufism. Additionally, we addressed reservations some Orthodox Muslims may have towards Sufi practices. We conclude by introducing distinctive Sufi traditions, such as the captivating practice of dervish whirling and the rich tradition of intimate poetry. In the upcoming videos, we will talk about why psychology is interested in incorporating Buddhist practices as a therapy to cure certain depression and anxiety-related ailments. We will also look into the use of psychedelic substances in Native American religious and cultural traditions.